Hello, I'm Cambridge Rory, or Cambridge English Teacher Rory, and in today's video I'm going to be marking a CAE, that's C1 Advanced essay. So let's have a look at the question, which has come from a sample paper. Part 1, it says you must answer this question, write 220 to 260 words, and it says your class has listened to a radio discussion about how adults can be a good influence on younger people. You have made the notes below. So, the ways adults can influence younger people, how younger people behave. Giving rules, setting an example, offering advice. And then it says some opinions expressed in a discussion. Sometimes it's fun to break the rules. If you admire somebody, you try to behave like them. Young people don't always listen. Okay, so we need to write an essay discussing two of the ways in our notes, okay, that adults can influence younger people's behavior. Okay, so we need to listen to two of these. We need to talk about two of these notes here from the three. You should explain which way you think is more effective between the two, giving reasons to support your opinion. It says you may, if you wish, make use of the opinions expressed in a discussion, which are these, but you should use your own words as far as possible. Okay, so let's have a look. This is an essay that my student sent to me to mark. So I'm going to firstly make some corrections on their answer, and maybe also a bit at the same time I will make some marks on the examiner assessment scale template. This is how examiners mark your writing. It's based on 4 criteria. Each one is given a mark from 1 to 5. So I'll add notes to this at the same time as looking through the essay. So, it says the influence of adults on younger people, like children and juveniles, is an issue which is as old as mankind. Okay, this is a good phrase. Is as old as mankind. It's showing knowledge of the language, which is good. A comparison, and yeah, it's not such a common comparison either. So immediately I think that's quite a nice start, along with the word juveniles. So we can add that into the language here. Knowledge of less common words and phrases is evident. For example, juveniles, as old as mankind. And that can also be showing good language in terms of it being a comparison, as I said before as well, which also helps with communicative achievement. Parents and other important people surrounding children and juveniles have the natural intention to bring them up to be independent individuals. 2 possible ways to reach this will be discussed below. Okay, maybe I would try to think of a way you can use a different word for juveniles here. This is good language, natural intention, bring them up. I would maybe be a bit more specific here as well. I would maybe say 2 possible ways to reach, rather than this, to, maybe I would say to reach this goal. You could also say to achieve this, rather than reach, which might be a bit more specific. But no big mistakes so far, just potential improvements. I might just add it in to the language. There are times when alternative words or phrases could be used to avoid repetition or to more succinctly put across the argument. Okay. First main paragraph. Nicely spaced out, so yeah, that's good. Like go into organisation. The paragraphs are clearly separated. So the second paragraph. One method with which grown-ups affect younger people is by setting an example. Yeah, I probably wouldn't put the comma here, which is what Google is going to say. So just remove the comma. One method with which grown-ups affect younger people is by setting an example. The adult's behaviour. Yep, this is American English. In British English, we actually put a U here. You don't need to use British English, just have to make sure that if you're using American English here, then you use American English throughout, and you don't change between British and American. The adult's behaviour is observed, and consequences resulting from actions are noticed. Okay. Yep. In this way, young individuals identify behaviours which lead to desired outcomes within their social lives and copy them. Yep. Social lives, I would say. With a V. Within their social lives and copy them. Okay, I'm just going to reread the question again just to make sure we're answering it correctly. How adults can be a good influence on younger people. 2 of the ways in your notes that adults can influence younger people's behaviour. Giving rules, setting an example, offering advice. Okay, I'd say we're answering the setting an example comment in this paragraph. Yeah, setting an example. Behaviour is observed and consequences. Yeah, good. Good. This is just the original answer. I'm writing my comments on the copied version below. Okay, it's obvious to me that we're answering the question here. So the first main paragraph is clearly addressing one of the notes and fulfilling, therefore, the task requirement. Offering advice is another way to influence children and juveniles. Okay, so now we're moving on to the second point, offering advice, which presumably is also in the question. I can't remember. Let's see. Offering advice. Yes, it is. Good. Offering advice is another way to influence children and juveniles. For example, an adolescent contacts a close and experienced person who then supports and guides them by showing different perspectives or options. The young man or women can choose the seemingly best option. Yes, I'd probably say young men or women, or young man or woman, singular. Just because at the moment it's a single man and plural women. So the young man or woman can choose the seemingly best option. Okay. Good. Even if both methods lead young people to take responsibility, in my opinion, setting an example is the more efficient one. Both methods lead young people to take responsibility. So we're talking about both methods here, setting an example, offering advice. In my opinion, setting an example is the more efficient one. Okay, the first one. I don't know why I'm saying that. This process is mostly unconscious and automatical. I would just say automatic. Yeah. And therefore doesn't use much energy. Yes. In an essay, I'd probably avoid doing contractions if you can, and I'd just write the full words. Does not. Therefore does not use much energy. Yep. Into organization, I'm going to put that we're using words like therefore, linking words. Sentences are linked together effectively using a variety of cohesive devices, including linking words, for example, therefore. Okay. It's more efficient because it doesn't use much energy. Okay. It's the question about which one is more efficient, though. Question is how ways adult to how they can affect younger people. It doesn't talk about being more efficient here, but in the question, write an essay discussing 2 of the ways in your notes that adults can influence young people's behavior. Explain which way you think is more effective, giving reasons to support your opinion. Okay, so there's a difference here between effective and efficient. We're answering what's more efficient because it uses less energy, but we haven't actually mentioned that it's more effective. Maybe the fact it's unconscious and automatic makes it more effective, maybe, but otherwise I would say that this sentence could be tailored better to answer the question of whether or not it's effective. So some sentences could be more closely tied to the specificity of the question. For example, in the 4th paragraph, I think it's the 4th one. Yeah. The writer talks about setting an example being more efficient rather than more effective. Young individuals copy desirable behavior without great effort. Okay. However, contacting another person to be advised costs more because they show a weakness of not getting any further. Contacting another person to be advised costs more because they show a weakness of not getting any further. Okay, we're talking about cost as in the cost to the person, not a monetary cost, but it shows a weakness, and this is a cost, potentially. They can't advance anymore. I suppose then we're talking about seeking advice rather than offering advice. Offering advice would be that the adult, I suppose, gives advice freely, so therefore it shouldn't really cost the younger person in terms of showing their weakness. Maybe it would cost them showing their weakness if they are asking for advice, but Yeah, I'd have a rethink about this maybe in this sentence and the actual meaning of it, because I don't think that offering advice is costing much really, unless it's an adult, for example, who's asking advice from another adult. But then that's a bit different, I think. I think that the offering advice point is about adults offering advice to children. Okay, but now I understand that this paragraph is actually about one adult asking another adult for advice, which is interesting. I'd have thought that offering advice would mean, okay, just adult to the young person, but we're saying adult to the young person who then passes it on to another young person, I guess. Yeah. Interesting. I suppose this isn't necessarily talking about offering advice then. This is about a young person seeking advice from a more experienced person. So I feel like this point is maybe not being completely addressed. I feel like it's being addressed from a different angle, which is of young person seeking advice from an older person rather than an older person offering advice to a younger person. So it might be worth having a rethink of that. I find that a little bit not entirely in line with the question. So I'm going to write about that here. The offering advice point is not accurate enough, I think. The writer is arguing more about seeking advice rather than offering advice. And for that reason, I feel like I probably can't give it a 3 now. The actual writing so far has been really good in terms of language and lack of mistakes and everything. I'd be thinking that's at least a 3, probably a 4. Because of this, I'm thinking a 2, and therefore the communicative achievement has also been a little bit disrupted now because of that. And I'm thinking maybe that couldn't be a 2 as well because of this point. The writer's main argument about offering advice, again, same thing really, or yeah, throughout, not just in the 3rd paragraph, but also in the 4th paragraph, could be made, could be improved really, could be made better. I feel like planning a bit more before writing would help with this, to just keep everything in line a bit more. Anyway, let's carry on. So young individuals copy desirable behaviour without great effort. However, contacting another person to be advised costs more because they show a weakness of not getting any further. Additionally, good. Young people are not always open for advice. Yeah, okay, well this is a good point. This is saying, not that they're not seeking it, but that if they are offered it, they might not be open to it. Yeah, which is actually the point I think that was made in the notes. Young people don't always listen. And you've reframed it and used different words to explain that, so that's good. Just remove the capital letter. Okay, so you do come back to it a little bit, but it gets a little bit lost in there, which is what I was saying earlier, a few minutes ago. grown-up members of a social group serve as role models. This is sufficiently proven by scientists. Adults need to be conscious of this responsibility, since children do not only copy positive behaviour. Okay. Okay. I'd maybe say the alternative: do not only copy positive behaviour, but also negative behaviour, but they can also pick up bad habits, for example. Yeah, something like that would be good, I think, at the end. It's quite a short conclusion, and I feel like the argument about setting an example could be made stronger. Why that's, well, more closely to the question why it's more effective. I don't feel like this has really answered that particularly well, to be honest. So I'm sticking with my content number about 2. And I'm going to make some comments here. The argument about setting an example, or the argument for why setting an example is more effective, remember it's about effective, than offering advice, could be improved. I don't really feel like I'm coming away, having read this, thinking, oh yeah, setting an example is much more effective. Let's see in the final paragraph. We also are not really. I would probably back it up again in the final paragraph and again try to give more reasoning, or just strengthen the argument a little bit more about why setting an example is more effective. Yeah. So I'm sticking that with the 2 content. Communicative achievement also sticking with a 2, I think, because of similar reasons. The argument gets a bit lost. Again, focusing on why is setting an example more effective. This should be made stronger in the penultimate paragraph, and backed up in the conclusion. Conclusion doesn't really address it, and that would help get higher in communicative achievement working all the way through. Yep. Google's done well this time. I need to put a question mark there. Why is it more effective? Paragraphs, so organisation, paragraphs are clearly separated, which is good. Sentences are linked together effectively using... Okay, the paragraphs are clearly separated. However, the conclusion could link to the main argument about why setting an example is more important. Better. Yeah. But yeah, as I said, so organization, I think it would be okay to have, well, it is okay to have your introduction, and then why your first paragraph about one point, your second paragraph about the other point, but then you need to improve on this. The structure of the paragraph is okay, but you need to improve the arguments within and then back it up in your conclusion. So I'm going to give it a 3 for organization. And the language is good, as I said. Is evident throughout. For example, juveniles as old as mankind, sufficiently. There's occasional parts just here really where you should, I said don't use a contraction. Not only is good language as well, but should have something at the end. I'd recommend to say the alternative. And the tone is the writing overall is appropriately formal for an essay, so that's good. And good words, good phrases. Times when alternative words or phrases could be used to avoid repetition. Okay, that's just 1 or 2 times, so that's not a big mistake. So, going to stick with 4 for language. I think that the language itself is good enough. So it's just these other points which can be improved. Content, community achievement, having that flow throughout. So what have we got? We've got a 2, 2, 3, 4. So if we put those into the score here, 2, 2, 3, 4, that means you've got a total of 4, 7, 11 out of 20, which isn't quite good enough. You need to be averaging 12 out of 20. And I feel like maybe I'm being slightly generous with organisation and language. A harsher examiner maybe would give that a 2, maybe would give that a 3, but I think it's close. You just need to, as I said, plan better, I think, at the beginning. What is your argument? Try and get a more precise and clear image of that in your head. And that would put you in a good stead for the exam. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was useful. And I will see you again soon. I'm Cambridge Rory, Cambridge English teacher Rory from studentlanguages.com. Bye-bye.